True Crimers, Partners in Crime. This is week 7. We are in part 3. We are talking about Sebastian Rogers. And I just got to give my disclaimer again that this is for entertainment purposes only. This is just solely my opinion, my thoughts, my speculation. Please form your own opinion. These are not facts. This is just for entertainment purposes only. And now let's get back into it. We were talking about the conversation about Jules he was having with the canine handler, and they were talking about Heather, who was the old PI, and he was talking about the doorbell thing. So that's what I was talking about as we left part 2. I also heard that they said something about upgrading their security cameras. Well, they apparently didn't have security cameras according to them. So upgrading is a strange term to be using if they wouldn't be upgrading if they never had it to begin with. I think it's very hard for most to believe that they have this huge home. It is 2025. It was 2024, but whatever. And they don't have a security camera. I live in an apartment and I have 3 cameras. They are so accessible. Never mind the fact that KP installs security cameras. You're going to tell me they didn't have cameras? You're going to tell me that CP, who's away from home a lot, doesn't want to see what's going on at home? We heard that they had a camera in the kitchen to watch Sebastian, make sure he's not getting snacks or sneaking things. But they didn't have security cameras outside, and that's what she does for a living. Come on. Where did they go? Because I will never believe they didn't have security cameras. And especially now that they're saying they were upgrading them. That's a whole thing. It's so hard to believe. Anyone that does, I don't even understand. I can't even comprehend. Oh, and I'm sorry. I know I'm a little all over the place, but going back to the doorbell. Who on here doesn't have a doorbell? And I'm not even talking about a ring bell. A ring, camera bell. Just a normal house bell. I live in an apartment and I have one. I don't think I've ever lived in a house that doesn't have a doorbell. But they don't have a doorbell. Is there anyone here that's watching? Please let me know. Do you have a doorbell? I have never heard of someone not having a doorbell. I also wanted to touch on the fact that it almost seems like Seth said that KP wasn't always like that with Sebastian. Like, they had a connection at one point when he was younger. But I think it appears, maybe, it's very obvious that CP didn't like Sebastian. It's very obvious. I mean, when you talk about when he was mentioning that he had to take the phone away and KP and Seth didn't want him to, but he did anyway because for some reason he had that much control. And he said, "Don't make me regret this." And then Sebastian didn't listen to KP and he was so quick to grab it. And so you live in this house where you have the stepfather who's obviously an angry man, controlling, and doesn't like the stepchild. But then you have the mom who it's her child, but she has her husband, and I'm sure that was a crappy position to be in. I think a lot of moms would make a different decision, but let's not judge her on that. For her to allow him to have that much control over her child, though, I mean, I would never. The spanking, hitting with the belt, the punishing, throwing away his toys. She allowed these things to happen. And I'm sure life was pretty stressful. And so maybe there was just, I think over time, maybe she kind of grew distant. That connection was kind of going away. You could see it at Texas Roadhouse. There wasn't a mom enjoying dinner with her child. It just wasn't. She was on her phone. She was distracted. There wasn't a whole lot of conversation. It's sad. It's really sad. But, you know, I think it just appears that CP didn't like Sebastian, and KP was kind of maybe starting to take on feelings that like CP. Maybe she wanted to keep the lifestyle, she wanted to keep the marriage together, and Sebastian was kind of in the way. I mean, it's a known fact she didn't want Sebastian to live at home anymore. They were looking at group homes. He was going to live with Seth. So, I don't know. And just one last thing I wanted to mention, that in certain interviews I've been hearing lately, mainly like conversations that weren't like filmed, but they were recorded. Like the interviews with the PIs, or the interview with Jules, with Jules, the canine handler, but definitely with the PI. They start going over the timeline. And in the beginning, they're answering the questions and everything's fine. But as the night before goes on, when they get to be around Texas Roadhouse and the trash going out, you can feel the attitude change, the attitude shift. Going from answering the questions and, you know, maybe being cold, but answering the questions nevertheless, to getting very vague, very defensive, and very angry. It's instant. It's just an instant change. You can, every single time. So I thought that was interesting. There's a lot wrapped around this trash in so many different ways, from the trash going out, what time did the trash go out, who took the trash out, to the trash truck, the 3 a.m. flashlight video, but they try to say it's the trash truck, and then the trash in the morning, them calling after the trash had come. But she tried to wake him up a half an hour before. What happened in those 30 minutes? And then, I'm not going to get into that tonight, but Kathy Bowersox being there pretty quickly. And then, you know, reports of her being at the store. Where did KP go that morning in her car? Where did she drive to? I just wonder. Did she meet anybody? So I think the facts are I think I've made it pretty clear that I believe they had something to do with it, or they have guilty knowledge. I believe they are using a script. That's why we see so many inconsistencies and red flags. And I believe that these little trucks and things they have in the interviews are, I'm not saying they're not Sebastian's, but I'm saying they're props. They're being used as props, and they don't really need to be using props, but that's what I believe they're doing. So that is True Crime Friday. I was kind of all over the place this week. I had a lot of notes. They weren't totally connecting, but those were just more thoughts on the Sebastian Wayne Rogers case. We are doing our part to keep his name out there, trying to prevent his case from going cold. And I want to know all your thoughts in the comments. I asked many questions throughout this 3-parter tonight. So please, let's continue the conversation in the comments. And definitely don't forget to subscribe, follow, and do all the things so you don't miss the next episode, which is going to be True Crime Monday. Unless we can come up with a better name, please let me know. And we're going to talk about Summer Wells, unless, like I said, something big happens in the Sebastian case. But then we could have a bonus episode too. Who knows? Anyway, I hope everyone has an amazing weekend, and I will see you in the next one. Thank you so much for watching.